Today's talk is entitled Huge Orb Attaches and Transfers Energy to the Sun. This is based on my research on orbs, energy, bar, mists, and how this was understood by the ancients. It's recorded in rock art and various other historical accounts. Which makes me absolutely certain that I'm looking at the energy of creation. And so I want to refer to a video that appeared on YouTube in which orb is attached to the sun and it's delivering and transferring its energy as our research data suggests. And so I want to draw people's attention to some of our data and some of the evidence that we hold, and I'm going to refer back to an event in 1561 and 1565, which was recorded by Hans Glazier. And what you can see here is a collection of orbs and bars that are familiar to our research, but obviously people aren't going to understand that because they haven't seen the research. They haven't done 20 years of study. They couldn't predict one sequence of event from another, how a bar converts to an orb, how an orb delivers energy through strands. And so what I've done is I'm trying to put this video together so that people can understand that these are part of the predictions and things that we would expect to see. The energy of creation, the 96-97%, interacting with matter. So we have orbs interacting with the sun. And of course Hans Glazier recorded that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk. This is a document I purchased from the Zurich Central Library. I had and paid for this to be translated. And so what I'd like to do is I'll read you some of the relevant translations. Obviously there's a little bit of misunderstanding, but they're recording what they saw. And so what I will do is I'll run through the bits that relate to, or I feel relate to, the orb interaction with the sun. And so the account that's relevant, I just want to give some background. In the year 1561, on the 13th day of April, between daybreak and sunrise, that is between 4 and 5 a.m. in the morning. So they're giving detail about the timing of the things. What is then said is the sun was crossed by two blood-coloured semicircular lines. Now this is interesting, shaped like a waning moon, which appeared and was seen running through the middle of the sun. So we have crescents, semicircular lines running through the center of the sun, through the middle of the sun, and in the sun above, below, and on both sides stood globes. Well, I will call them orbs. And then it goes on to describe the colors of them. Obviously in some of this stuff they're talking about the bars with 3 orbs in them and 4 orbs in them, which our research confirmed probably 6 to 8 years prior to me finding these accounts and having them translated. And between these crosses, and it continues, between the crosses and the globe, blood-coloured ribbons. So we can talk about strands, thick behind and rather thinner in front, like tubes. All around these were mixed in among other things, two great tubes, one standing to the right and the other to the left, and inside these smaller and greater tubes in 3s and 4s, and more globes. So they're talking about the bars and the orbs inside the bars. So again, this is pretty understandable in regards to our research. There are things in it that I don't understand, because I haven't seen a sun event like this, and what I have is my collection of data. Probably over the time I took 1 million photographs and collated 1 million of them, deleted many of those that were duplicates, and so I've got a good idea, but I'm not suggesting that I would understand all of it. And so it continues, so that the globes that were within the sun at first, so we're talking about the orb inside the sun, went towards those that stood off to each side, and those who were outside, and the globes from the small and the great tubes went into the sun, and the tubes moved about together just as the globes did. So these things were moving around the sun, going in and out of the sun, you know, and basically what we're looking at is an orb being attached to the sun, delivering, as I would see it, delivering its energy, and that energy interaction creates a solar blast, which blasts the orbs away from the sun. But nobody's going to understand this, really. I mean, to me it's pretty simple. And so what we have is tubes, and then there's arcs in the sun, which are not recorded in the woodcut, but the account is talking about the spheres then falling from the sky, or steam forming. They appeared out of the sun. How big were these things? How quickly did they travel? Is this account right? Who knows? But there is something in common with my research, only in viewing the event. And you know, if we had digital technology, we would say, the one thing I can say about this event, firstly, that the people were scared, and fear really comes from a lack of understanding. They talked about God's punishment and things like that. But once you can understand something, when you understand that Hans Glaser actually lived to survive to record this and came out the other side, he didn't talk about hundreds of thousands of people dying. He talked about people being frightened, but they didn't die. And he, of course, was around to record it. So we shouldn't be fearing anything like this. I'm not trying to deliver, you know, doom and gloom as an individual. What I'm trying to deliver is the research that we hold, so that people can somewhat any fear that is unreasonable, because many would jump to the conclusion that these are alien spaceships, alien beings, or an invasion or something or other which the Illuminati want to sell you. I'm trying to counter that argument with the research data I hold. You know, I show compassion for my brothers and sisters, and I don't want them living in fear and misunderstanding something that is pretty simple to me. But that's 20 years and a couple of near-death experiences that has taken me on this path of the energy, of trying to understand the energy of creation. And so what I've done is I've just put a just why these words from Hans Glaser seem so comfortable to me, although I'm not suggesting that I know everything about this, because I don't. I mean, it's massive. It's going to unveil the new science, the true science of how the 96-97% the massless particle actually creates matter, not some stupid idea of a Big Bang. And so what we have here is three orbs sharing energy. We've got the crescent shapes, and we've got an orb attached to the brighter three orbs together, linking and sharing energy. There's one dim one, and there's two brighter ones, but what they have got is the crescent shape inside them. So I'm not saying that our sun's going to disappear or whatever, but we could see things that because science looks at a linear model, in no way is it ever going to be able to understand what occurs when it occurs. This is why this solar event of an orb attached to the sun is again familiar to me. It's something that is not, I've seen in the data, I've seen in our research data, there's a similarity to those three orbs attaching by strands. And so what I want to go on to is, you've heard me talk about string theory or the energy of creation. And so what I've done is I've added some of the pictures. Now, the three cartoon type pictures are from the mathematics of string theory. So we have a closed tube and an open tube kind of thing. We have clusters, and we have the wave that fires out the floor, or the bar, or the serpent, depending on which mythology the rainbow serpent the Aborigines talk of. And so this stuff is the energy of creation. So this energy of creation interacts with everything. Every living cell has an interaction with the energy of creation, on the small and on the large. So we have our suns interacting with it, and only at certain conditions can we see it. I mean, these are things that we've called impactor orbs or mushroom orbs, but we built up a sequence of how they convert and form. The following picture, so you're going to be asking me how this relates to the strand and the web that is attached to the sun. This following picture, some of these are sequenced. I would call them Kachina orbs, like the Hopi believed in, the tree spirits, or the Kachina that brings life force to plants. And some of these were taken in lightning storms. And again, I could start talking about how we built up the attachment of this and the delivery of this energy. The top one looking like the burning bush, and if you imagine that this magnetic or this energy exchange was seen in the burning bush account in the Bible, it talks about burning without fire. So we got a mass of this data doing various different things, but it is the energy of creation. It's string theory, but the only flaw with string theory is that it's using scientific facts which are actually flawed. The constant speed of light will eventually be understood as a nonsense, and the laws of gravity will also be realized. There are simple experiments even now that defy the laws of gravity. There's a Lockheed engineer who done a very simple experiment which defies the laws of gravity. I'm not here to talk about the laws of gravity. I want to carry on with the sun. So what I'm showing you is some of the strands, webs, and the process of the orb, how it interacts with nature. It restores balance to living organisms. It's the placebo effect, and it also interacts with our sun. So what I'm going to show you now is just a couple of the pictures of the strands and how they attach to various different things. We've the classic, what we class as the hook web orb. That's because of the distinct little hook that rises, and these things attach to trees to energy points and exchange energy. So if you get a sequence of them, the orb will break down and then become brighter. So when we first realized that, it was, it was pretty mind-blowing. We couldn't quite get it. And so what we've got here is, I think, just another photograph of what we class as the Hooke Webb orb. It's important to our data that we show this. Now people say, oh, it's just smearing on the camera or whatever. When you see the strand coming out of the point of the hook attaching to the plant. And we know this to be true now after all these years. What I've put is petroglyphs. These are Bronze Age, well, they're believed to be Bronze Age, probably Mesolithic, I would suggest, but they date them by the archaeology around them. The Scandinavian Rock Art Society then paint them, and they paint the rock, and then they take photographs to preserve them, so the images of the detail is there. So what I've done is I've enlarged one of those petroglyphs, which is of the Hooke Webb orb, and I've laid a little red line in there, and the angles of which they break down and meet is no coincidence. We've even got the as Hans Glazier said, the tubes with 3 orbs in them on that piece of rock art. And so there's no argument that Hans Glazier was describing something that we saw in the Bronze Age or the Mesolithic or throughout history. And so I want to show you why that I'm certain that orbs attach through strands. This is as I said, this energy of creation interacts with everybody. If you took millions of photographs in the right climatic conditions and you were conducting this energy and converting it, you would have similar things. And so what in the first photograph, or the larger of the two, is that you will notice a tiny little cutout in the bottom of it. Now if I was to zoom into that, you would see a tiny thread of particles attaching to the hand, very much like the strand on the moon. Obviously with the top one it becomes pretty simple. You've got the web attaching, and we've got these in sequence as well. So what I want to do then is just go back to, so this is the energy of creation. It attaches and in certain conditions to every, it affects everything. It affects every single particle in the universe. It's found in blood, then that is, I think it's called. It's been found in blood with the stomatoscope, and that's a previous video that I hold. And so what we have is the video of the sun. We have these strands attaching to the webs, or what I would call attaching to the surface of the sun, exchanging energy. Energy flows in 2 ways. One gives out and comes back through. It's like electrical current. When they've got to flow together, and so it's picking up the energy, it's delivered its energy, and as it pushes energy into the sun as well, it will eventually blast it off the sun. So it's a 2-way flow of energy, and so the orb is blasted off the sun. And so what I've done is I just put a bit of a collage of some of the strands that we've got. I've got they're not the greatest of pictures that I hold, but just as an example of how these strands file out of the orb, and a comparison of the orb attached to the sun. It's pretty simple, but obviously you've got to accept that orbs are real, maybe massless, and form part of the string theory effect. In this next image it's a pretty weird thing, because it's Bronze Age rock art. It's a fiberglass part with a strand coming out of the orb. We have a picture of cells under a microscope, and so we live in a biological, like all the shaman thought, and a living universe. And so what I want to do is revert back to that video. It's just zoomed in a bit. You know, have your strands attached to the sun, and the exchange of energy, so it's exchanging energy and blasts off its surface. I've got bits of this in the book that I've written, of how the process unfolded. It was finished 2006-07. Pretty boring thing, but it covers some of the photographs that we put in. Some of these are not included in the book. We hadn't found the hook web orb at that time, and so, but there are some of those photographs in there. I'd like to thank you very much. This energy interaction is a natural thing that you and I and everything in the universe is made of, so it's nothing to worry about. Thank you very much.